Good morning, everyone. This is John Eltruder. Welcome to our Doctor's Corner call this morning. Today is August 22nd, 2013, and I am super excited this morning for a great Doctor's Corner call. And welcome to just getting another piece of the puzzle here on this journey called health, which is the one that we're all on. And if we're good stewards of our body, it's one that we'll be on for the whole of our lives. And so it's really awesome to be able to take just another step here and focus in on some things that are going to be relevant to learn this morning. You know, understanding this body that we're living in is sometimes a very complicated matter, and it helps to kind of chip away here at David, if you will. And what I mean by that is simply chipping away that all that isn't relevant here for us. You're just starting to understand some of these systems, how they work, and that just helps us make better decisions. It helps us understand a little bit more about some of the things that we can do to bring our body into this ultimate place of balance. This morning is going to be a very interesting call. It's a great topic this morning. Our topic is going to be learning a little bit about signaling molecules, why they are so important, how they create balance or imbalance in terms of hormones, amino acids, and how these different levels of deficiency can actually cause disease. And a very interesting topic indeed. And we have a wonderful guest physician here this morning with us, a practitioner in the area of health. And I'm excited to have him with us this morning. Dr. Gianmichael is a retired naturopathic practitioner. He's been a naturopathic, boy, I got to get my words changed around this morning here, a naturopathic health practitioner and wellness and peak performance consultant and research scientist for more than 29 years. He's board certified in the field of holistic and integrative natural medicine, and as a Buddhist monk has practiced both Eastern and Western healing modalities, including yoga, for over 3 decades. And so really brings a very interesting lens here to the table in terms of our health. He's authored a number of books on natural healing, meditation, body-mind integration, and as a member of the National Association of Naturopathic Physicians. So, Dr. Gianmichael, I could go on at your curriculum vitae resume here, but I think that everyone's got the point here that you're bringing a varied perspective here to our call, and thank you for joining us this morning. Are you with me, Dr. Salvato?
I sure am. Thanks for having me, John. And I think maybe some of that background noise could be coming from the thunderstorm that we're having here, so I apologize for that.
Oh, no problem. I think that's something beyond our control. Well, I want to start by at least making our little regulatory statement this morning. And, of course, as we're talking about general health, we're also going to be weaving in our understanding around Laminine and how that can help bring our body to a higher state of balance. But regulatorily speaking, we want to make sure we're not presenting Laminine as a way of diagnosing, treating, mitigating, or curing any disease or condition. We're simply talking about how the body reacts when we give it some pretty precious nutrients here that brings us into a unique place of balance. And I'd like to start this morning, Dr. Salvato, with you know the thrust this morning. I guess the journey that we're on today is to learn a little bit about hormones and this balance, this very sacred balance that we have. And we started off by talking about signaling hormone or signaling molecules and so forth. And what are those? Let's start off with a very general question. What is a signaling molecule, Dr. Salvato?
Sure. Well, in order to understand what signaling molecules are, we have to understand that there are 3 different kinds in our body. And you know, quite often when we're talking about the way that the body begins to heal itself and restore homeostasis and how Laminine assists the body in being able to do that in an optimal way, we talk about the stem cells being woken up or the stem cells being activated. And what we're actually talking about is let's look at what activates those stem cells. In your body, there are 3 different types of what we call signaling molecules. One of those signaling molecules is the endocrine signaling molecules that controls and monitors, if you will, all of the hormone levels in your body. Then there's the neurotransmitter signaling molecules, which regulate things like dopamine and serotonin levels. They monitor all of the neuropathways in your body to make sure that they're operating at optimal function. And then the third kind are your cytokine signaling molecules, and those are the ones that regulate your immune system response. Whether that response is to take hyperimmunity, as in the case of lupus, or other autoimmune diseases, and bring that immunity back down so that it's normal, or whether that's an immune deficiency like HIV and AIDS, to bring the immune system back up, or when you get a cold or get an infection. And so you've got these three different types of signaling molecules that tell the body, hey, we're in crisis, and this is what we need. We need stem cells to go to the immune system. We need stem cells to activate T cells. We need stem cells to work on repairing a neurotransmitter bridge. And so these signaling molecules are critical because without them, our body wouldn't know where it needs to heal. And if that were the case, then we would truly be at the mercy of traditional medicine, of taking drugs to just mask the symptoms, rather than being able to give the body what it needs so that the body can do what it was always designed to do, and that's to restore balance, or what we call homeostasis.
Fascinating. So what I'm hearing here, and I'm just going to kind of put a layman's phrase here, it sounds like what we're talking about, signaling molecules are messages from these various systems basically saying, hey, I need help. And would that be a correct, reframe here in terms of a very easy way to look at that?
Absolutely. I wish I could have said it that simply myself.
Well, you get to do it the technical way. I get to do it the layman's way. So when these various systems are calling out through their, these signaling molecules saying, hey, I need help, send me support, obviously the body sometimes has trouble maybe getting those messages out clearly. I mean, what stops? I mean, I would imagine that the systems are sending out these messages and it doesn't always come through perfectly clear, or maybe help isn't always able to be launched in an immediate response to that request. So how does this balance, or maybe even bringing Laminine into the equation, however you might explain this, what tends to interfere with this signal, or what stops that signal from a response being launched immediately or efficiently within this equation? Does that question make sense to you?
Yes, it does, and it's a kind of a complex answer, but let's look at it one step at a time. One of the first things that happens, and this is there are two areas I like to talk to people about that are the foundations for disease. One, we've talked about on some other calls, and Dr. Steve Petrosino's talked about the shortening of the telomeres. And when that telomeric response, or that the little shoelace ending, if you will, on the end of the strand of DNA gets shorter and shorter and shorter, the cell ages, and when that shoelace is gone, or that end cap is gone, what we call telomeres, then the cell dies. If enough cells die, then that's part of the cellular aging process. But if enough cells die, disease is always the result. And disease also begins to manifest in the body. We start to see evidence of disease when cortisol levels are too high in the body. That causes imbalances in lots of the other systems, which results in chronic inflammation. And where there's inflammation, there's going to be imbalances generally in your amino acid levels, your protein levels, and your hormone levels. And because of those imbalances, the first thing I like to look at is the amino acids. If you think about anybody who's looked at their equalizer on the sound system on their computer, where you slide one of the buttons and all of the other buttons moves down with it to for rock and roll or easy listening or folk ballads, your amino acid levels in your body are very much the same. If one amino acid level drops below the normal level, all of the other amino acids will drop down to try and maintain that homeostasis, to kind of try and maintain the balance in those levels. Well, if those amino acids, if one or more of them starts to drop down to critical levels, all of your other amino acids drop down to critical levels. And so now you're working with a body where it's not functioning at its optimal level. And as you said, that could cause some of those signaling responses to not get through, or to get through too late, or to get through incompletely. And then as that's happening, if your amino acid levels are dropping, your hormone levels are going to get out of balance. When your cortisol levels go up, the body again tries to maintain this sort of balance in an unnatural kind of way. It's trying to to force balance, if you will. And when those hormone levels are out of balance, your immune system is going to get out of balance. So you can see that it almost sets off a cyclical effect. It almost starts like a domino effect, where one system gets out of balance, and soon the body, in its attempt to try and maintain and restore balance, instead of maintaining it by bringing everything up, it brings everything down to the level of that lowest common denominator. So really and truly, when it comes to your body, the chain, they say the chain is as strong as the weakest link, and that's what happens on a cellular level within the body. So that's why those signaling molecules don't get through. Now, what can we do about that? Well, Laminine, by activating those stem cells, by giving the body what it needs, a complete balance of the amino acids that it needs every day in the right synergistic and bioavailable balance. And by the way, your amino acids your essential amino acids need to be replenished every single day. You don't get them from your body doesn't create them naturally, and you can't eat enough amino acids on Monday to get you through the rest of the week. Tuesday, you're going to need to restore that balance again. So when we give the body that balance, when we give the body the fibroblastic growth factors that are essential in triggering or turning on, if you will, those signaling molecules, the body's then able to respond in the way that it was designed to respond. It's able to recognize those signals. It's able to effectively get those signaling molecules turned on, so that the stem cells will go to wherever it is in your body that you have an imbalance, wherever it is that disease is beginning to take place.
Fascinating. So I'm going to use another phrase here. So you talked about the lowest level, the lowest common denominator, or you could say that the body tunes itself to deficiency. It tunes itself to that deficiency. And so it's a very interesting concept, and this brings me to something that I have been saying, and I want to test out this theory on you here with this statement that, when those levels get low and the body starts it has to always continue to seek balance no matter where it is. And so does it go through a process of saying, when it starts to see a deficiency, and let's say in an amino acid level, it wants to pull things from other parts of the body to create more balance. In other words, I have this expression that I talk about, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so if the body's alkalinity in terms of blood alkalinity is off and it needs to be more alkaline, it wants to pull something, maybe calcium from the bone that could be alkalizing to the blood. And then it maybe leaves a deficiency within the bone system, that it wants to go get filled up. And so it creates, this, we need to go pull from this system in order to balance this out. So it creates this chaos or this cascade in the body in terms of one imbalance after another, each system trying to bring itself into wholeness. How does that play itself out in terms of, because I think about amino acids as, I don't know whether I should look at this as individual segments or individual parts or systems in the body, or whether I look at the amino acid, as, in terms of the entire body as one system. So does that cascade, or how I would describe it, a cascade, of the body trying to make itself or bring itself into balance in all these various systems, would that be a proper representation, or is there another way to look at that might be a little bit more complete?
I think that's a perfect representation of what happens, and I think that you just illustrated for us too the reason that what we've done traditionally for the last 100, 200 years in science and medicine hasn't been effective, because we try to segment everything and look at disease in terms of one specific system in the body. And you're absolutely right. The body is going to try to pull from wherever it can whatever it needs to create that balance. And so, like you said, in terms of pH, the body is going to start to rob the bones and leach calcium from the bones. Then you're going to end up with osteoporosis. Now the body is going to start to look at, for where it can draw more calcium and can draw some of the other components. And those, at the end of the day, that smallest component that the body needs is amino acids and oxygen. And so, in fact, if you want to, all three would be amino acids, oxygen, and water. And so your body is going to, by giving it the amino acids that it needs, you're treating the entire system. And that brings up a good point, because quite often people who start using Laminine, will tell us that, well, I didn't feel anything in my first 3 or 4 days, and I've heard some folks say that they had more energy, and I've heard some folks say that, they just felt more alert and they felt a clearer sense of thinking. But understand that every one of our bodies are different, and because we're treating the entire body when we give the body food of any sort, but Laminine being a functional food, you're giving the body everything that it needs for the entire body. So your body's wisdom, that inner wisdom at a cellular level, is going to know where those stem cells need to go first. And I don't know what it feels like on a tactile level when my immune system gets activated. But I know that after 6 weeks of being on this product, my body was able to increase my T cell count by 50%. I didn't feel that. I had no way of knowing that. Some people might have fibromyalgia. They may have imbalances in their immune system that manifest as chronic fatigue and a lot of increased pain. Their body, the Laminine may trigger stem cells that are going to go to work on whatever the cause of the fibromyalgia is for them, not on the symptoms. So does that make sense on kind of how if we treat the whole body, then the body, we have to just give the body some time and space for it to use those stem cells wherever they're needed, and we may not always feel the healing that's going on until the body's either gone through the retracing process or until the body's taken care of those underlying root causes.
One of the things that I know that you said earlier that we can't, eat enough amino acids in essence, on Monday to last us, all week or all month or all year. It's something we have to do on a continuing, ongoing basis. And so my question would be, how are the amino acids that we get out of Laminine really different from, anything else that we could choose to put in our body? I mean, food is all made up of amino acids, and I know that there are, this idea of denatured or undenatured, whether it be proteins or amino acids. Maybe those respond or react differently in our body. So what is so different about the proposition, about what we present to our body through Laminine in terms of nutrition versus, processed food, if you will, or food
Sure.
in general,
And I'm going to take that a step further, and well, first we'll answer your question, and then I'm going to talk about how that's different from some other things you might have heard about in the health and wellness industry. First of all, how is it different from food? Well, the really unique thing about Laminine, for those who might be listening for the first time today, is that Laminine brings together all of the stuff that's necessary on the 9th day of that fertilized chicken egg for the and it's found in the egg white, for the egg yolk to turn from a yolk into an embryonic chicken. And we found that by adding the 2 additional proteins from the land and from the sea, that we're able to imitate or mimic or match, if you will, the exact same constituent components that are available in the body when the egg turns into a fetus in your body. And that thing that we talk about, that miracle of life, or that life-giving constituent component, is called fibroblastic growth factor. And that's what you can't get from anything else in your diet. That's what we aren't able to eat. Now a motorcycle decided to go by. Sorry about that. You're not able to eat a certain kind of food and get the fibroblastic growth factors. It's only available in the womb, in the embryonic state, in the body of children up to about the age of 4, maybe 7 years old in some cases, and in the embryonic chicken egg, the avian chicken egg. And so by taking Laminine, you're actually putting something back in your body that's been missing since you were a child, or a very young child. And that's one of the main ways that this is different from anything else we eat, because that fibroblastic growth factor is kind of like the architect that instructs those signaling molecules where to carry the support beams or the structural support that's needed for the body. Now, you might hear in different health journals or on television or on the internet that this thing called adaptogens, and there's I've noticed quite a few companies in the last couple months trying to mimic, I believe, and copy some of the things that we're able to say about our product. Of course, they can't do that with documentation. They don't have 11 clinical studies. They don't have 13 international patents, but they can sort of say just enough to mislead somebody into believing that their product's an adaptogen, so it must do everything that Laminine does. And again, the big difference is there are a lot of adaptogenic herbs and natural health products out there, and they're all good, but they don't contain the fibroblastic growth factors. They don't have that constituent component that's going to turn on the stem cells and give the body what it needs to effectively use those amino acids, those building blocks of proteins, in a way that's going to benefit the whole body. There are some adaptogens that might be really terrific for helping the body to deal with stress. There's other adaptogens that might help to deal with immune disorders. There's a whole range of adaptogens out there, but we have a choice. We could take $200, $300, $400 worth of adaptogens every month and hope that we were spot on deciding which systems in our body were out of balance, which most of us don't know, including health professionals, exactly where the cause of the greatest imbalance is. Or we can use something like Laminine, where it allows the body to use its own wisdom to discover where the help is needed first, and then fix that area, and then move on to the next area, and then move on to the next area. Did that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. The idea of the adaptogen is really a very fascinating, concept, and it, for the body to be able to balance itself through an invitation of support, and I say it that way as opposed to something like a drug where we're offering the body a nutrient base so that it can basically assign and deliver. So let me ask you this. When we talk about Laminine, we talk about providing, through the fibroblastic growth factor, an architect, or an intelligence, to the body that's able to be directive. Because when we just bring, nutrition into our body, we bring in amino acids. Let's say we even have some good raw food and it's undenatured and it's as intact as nutrients can be. It doesn't necessarily fulfill the same dynamic. And so, as a listener here, as I'm listening to you speak and thinking this through, to get good quality, undenatured, organic food, and I think a lot of people will, they go in their brain going, well, if I just eat better, if I just get, undenatured food and I get all these various things that will really be presenting nutrition to my body in the best way possible, I can get, 95% of the way there potentially. But one of the differentiators here I see is the fibroblastic growth factor, which obviously isn't in all the food that we eat. It does provide not just the building blocks, but it also provides this very directive intelligence or architect that is presented to the body that really assigns. And so, is there any way to get enough of the right kind of food that would not require us to take Laminine? Can we get this done on our own through having a super clean, ultra pure diet?
Absolutely not. And I don't want anybody to think that means that having an ultra pure diet is not important and not a great step to take toward maintaining health for the rest of their lives. But you're not going to find a single food that's known to humankind that contains the fibroblastic growth factors. And so what I like to say, I love the fact that you said, what if it takes me 95% of the way there? Well, if you think of the body as a 100-mile bridge, 95% of the way there means that there's going to be a 5 miles gap. If the workers had to carry a steel beam from across that bridge to the 95% point, if they don't have fibroblastic growth factors, when they take that first step after that 95th mile, they're going to fall off the bridge. And that's exactly what happens on a cellular level for us, is we can eat the right foods, we can exercise, we can drink plenty of water and restore the alkalinity in our body, but that's not going to give us the fibroblastic growth factors that provides that intelligence or that efficiency that's available in the embryonic state that allows the body to turn from a mass of cells into an ear. We call laminine the cell adhesion molecule, and the reason is that Without laminin, we would essentially just be stardust. We would be no different than anything that you see in the night sky. Laminin is what brings those cells, holds those cells together as cells, and then holds them together with one another to form your ear, to form your hand, to form your organs and the systems within your body. And if you don't have the fibroblastic growth factors, there's nothing there to repair that process of those cells breaking down.
I think that we just stumbled upon a great little example here that really does. It helped me. It became very dramatic when you said, we have this bridge that's 100 miles long and we're missing a 5-mile segment. That's a real problem. And the truth is, if we're missing a 1-mile segment or we're missing a 100-foot segment, it's going to cause a problem. And so I think that's a very interesting way to look at it. Either you can get across the bridge to what we might call optimal health, or you can't. And so that's really that really kind of struck me there when you took that percentage and created that example. And I think that will help people just kind of understand the critical nature of having a way to get all the way across the bridge. So let me ask you, in terms of the quantity, and you made a comment earlier about everybody's body is different, it's unique, and the body is sets up the priority in terms of what systems are affected or how these nutrients in essence are directed, to help repair and bring the body back into balance. Talk to us a little bit about the quantity and how people go through the process of kind of self-administering the right quantity of the product, because we have a protocol where we recommend to people start off with 4 a day, and I've heard other practitioners say start off with 6 a day, and just kind of manage it based on where the body is. What kind of directive can you give or help people be able to manage their own journey in terms of starting the product and where they might go depending on if they have some type of challenge that they're working with, or whether they're doing something as a prevent or as a maintenance? How do you guide people through that process of how to best utilize a product like this?
Sure, that's a great question, and as you said, different health practitioners are finding that, particularly finding that with their specific patients, that different loading doses might be more effective. But as a rule, what I tell folks is that the best thing that they can do for their body is to start out with a 120 count Laminine for their first month, and they need to take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, or 1 4 times a day. It depends. That's going to depend on their body. It's going to depend on their absorption levels. When we talk about absorption in the body, I always like to explain to people that in your intestines, there's these little finger-like protrusions that are called intestinal villi, and that's where all of the absorption takes place in your body, or where the majority of absorption, I should say, takes place. And so those villi get clogged up by the chemicals in the foods that we eat, by additives, by just by stress that the body undergoes, and by environmental toxins. And so depending on how well your body's absorbing the Laminine from the start, you may want to take, instead of taking 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, you may want to take 1 4 times a day, so that you're continuously giving the body what it needs for that first 30 days to build up the right levels. After that first 30 days, I tell people that if you're perfectly healthy, you feel great, and you're just starting to take Laminine because you want to give your body an edge against the battle of aging, or you want to give your body an edge as an athlete, then it may be perfectly okay for you to take 1 in the morning and 2 in the evening, or 1 3 times a day. But if you're dealing with any kind of imbalance, any kind of illness, chronic fatigue, inflammation, then I really encourage people to stay on that same protocol for another month. And while you're on that second month, that's when I tell people to start to become a little bit more mindful, a little more aware of what's going on in their body. Maybe, toward the end of that second month, try taking 1 in the morning and 2 in the evening, and see in the morning how you feel. Does your body feel as good, as energetic, as balanced? Because after 2 months, we've had folks who said that they missed their reorder date by a few, 3 4 5 days, They misjudged when they were going to run out. And they felt within 3 days, now I personally experienced this when my first month using the product, I misjudged by 4 days. And by the end of the third day, I was in bed because I really felt, you don't realize until you're feeling good how bad you felt as a baseline before that. So I tell people, be aware of that. So see if you go back to, if you go down to 1 in the morning, 2 in the evening, if your mornings feel really sluggish, it may very well be that your body still needs to take those 2 twice a day or the 1 4 times a day, whichever works for you. And then going forward, it's all a matter of learning to tune in and listen to what your body needs. I always tell folks that on a day, if you're taking, 2 a day, if you're taking, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, and you have a very stressful day, understand that because you've already proven to yourself how well your body is going to respond when you're giving it what it needs in balance, maybe on a day when you're having a lot of stress, you need to take 2, 3 times a day. So we always, in our house, we always like to make sure that we have a couple extra bottles because we know on those very stressful days when someone in the family passes away unexpectedly, when you just have a really bad day, the car breaks down or the roof starts to leak, why not give the body the edge that it needs so that your serotonin levels will be restored to balance and you won't have that stress and that anxiety.
One of the, and just as you talk about the protocols and the various ways to help people navigate that, the other thing that I have found to be particularly important is having that carrier called water available. So when people are going through, the experience, and sometimes people end up in, a bit of a healing crisis because the nutrients do stir up a process in the body that sometimes can just be straight energy and pure fun, and sometimes it can be other than straight energy and pure fun. And it would, one of the things that we've talked about a lot on our calls is having good, healthy water to help, the body carry out this prime directive. So is that something that you advocate as well in the process?
Yeah, without question. I like folks to understand that even when they're feeling that pure energy and fun, the body is still eventually at some point detoxing all of those defective cells and the stuff that's left off of the cells and the toxins that are in your body. So it's always important to make sure that you're drinking healthy water. And by healthy water, there are only two things that I would recommend. One would be pure spring water. The other would be pure spring water that's been ionized so that it's a little more alkaline. And your health practitioners and things like that, and John can help point you in directions to understand that a little bit better. But just know that by bringing your body back to a fully hydrated and alkaline balance, you're going to make this product work even more effectively for you. And you brought up a good point, John, because you talk about the healing crisis, or what doctors call the Herxheimer syndrome that goes on sometimes in the body when we're detoxing, when we're getting rid of some of the root causes of those diseases. And water is going to be good for that. It's going to be essential, and so make sure that you're drinking plenty of water, but also make sure that in that first month to 2 months, you're being gentle with yourself. It's always a good idea to get a little bit more rest in the first month, to give your body a little bit more time. Maybe if you can, get out in the sunshine a little bit during that first month to 8 weeks, so that your body's able to really sort of be kind and gentle and restore itself, because we have something that's called retracing that goes on in the body in many cases with disease, which if you think about a videotape, and if you watch a videotape in the regular mode, you watch things happen in a forward motion. But when your body has to heal, many times it goes through what we call a retracing process, which is like turning your video player in reverse mode and watching everything happen in reverse. So all of those different systems and symptoms that occurred along the way toward the ultimate disease that you experienced are now going to be revisited in reverse order and healed in reverse order until you get back to homeostasis. And again, drinking plenty of water, getting lots of rest, exercise when you can, and getting out and exposing yourself to sunshine is going to be very helpful in helping the body through both of those processes, whether it's just to detox or whether it's through the retracing process.
So one of the things that you said, commented on earlier, and that was, some people feel, something happening, and they, you become aware that something is different, whether it's your energy or your mood, or you're feeling less pain or less discomfort, or whatever it may have been, that it was that thing that jumped out and said, hey, notice me, something's going on here. What about the people that really aren't experiencing anything? I mean, how do you get somebody to, kind of understand that something good is going on even when they're not feeling it? Because you know what the reality is in this day and age, that if we're not feeling it, we're going, I don't really need it. I'm fine without it. What can we say to somebody? What kind of compelling things, can we put before somebody that might get them to kind of rethink this? And we're so overstimulated in our culture today. Things that get our attention are things that jump right out in front of us in the middle of the highway, jumping up and down in a neon suit, and otherwise we just kind of glaze over it. So how can we help people understand that may not be getting this real breakthrough response? Is it something that they might notice, 3 months, 4 months down the road, 6 months down the road? Or what kind of things could we share with somebody to help them sustain the journey to get the benefits out of what this product has to offer?
Well, that's a great question, too. And I think that for the wellness advocates that are on the call today, this is why it's really important, critically important, on the 3rd day, the 5th day, the 7th day, and the 15th day to touch base with the client that you just introduced to Laminine and guide them through the process of understanding what this product does. I think most of the time that somebody says, well, I'm not feeling anything, it's because we didn't give them a proper foundation to understand how the product works. So they're looking for something that's going to, they might listen to some conference calls and hear people whose energy levels are up or who are feeling a sense of mental clarity or additional, a boost in different areas in their lives. But if we explain to them that this is going to work on the symptoms and the systems of their body that need it the most first, and then it's going to go to the next area that needs it and the next area that needs it. And like I said, I'll always tell somebody, hey, do you know what it feels like? Did you feel your hair turning gray? And they're going to laugh and say no. Do you feel your fingernails grow? And again, they're going to say no. And I say, well, I promise you this. In your first month, I just want you to notice how much stronger your fingernails get. And I said, and I'll show you pictures of me before and after, and my hair has gotten darker. Now, Laminine doesn't turn your hair dark. Laminine doesn't cure any disease. Laminine, again, gives the body what it needs in a synergistic and bioavailable balance for the body to do what it needs to do to restore balance. And one of the things that causes gray hair is an imbalance in the levels of melanin in your bloodstream. And so and in the body. When the balance is restored, the two things that I noticed right off the bat was my fingernails were growing faster and they were growing stronger. My hair was growing faster, and the color started to come back in my hair. And I've heard that from dozens of people that have been using this product. Not everybody, but dozens of people. So I said, did I feel the hair getting darker? No. Did I feel my fingernails growing or getting stronger? No. So that's where we just have to know that the body is going to go to work on whatever it needs first. In my case, as for those who don't know my story, I have young onset Parkinson's disease like Michael J. Fox, and I have an immune disorder that had left my system. If I had not started taking Laminine about, I guess it's a year ago now, by today I would most certainly not be here. And so it literally saved my life. And in those first 6 weeks on the product, I was looking for a reduction in stress and anxiety. I saw a friend of mine, the person who introduced me to this product, was very stressed out. We didn't realize that what she had was adrenal fatigue at the moment. I just thought she was just really stressed out and becoming not as nice of a person. And so I saw in 4 weeks that her personality was back to the personality of the friend that I loved for so many years. And that's all I wanted for myself. And I wasn't feeling all of that stress reduction that she was feeling. but I was starting to notice little subtle changes in my hair and nails. I was noticing that I slept better at night. A lot of those things we don't realize until we start to really focus and become more mindful, to pay attention to what's going on in our bodies. And as I said, in that first 6 weeks, my immune system increased by 50%. And you don't feel your T cells going to work in your body. You don't feel your immune system getting stronger. It just happens. And so if we take the time to explain that to people, and one of the best ways to do that is, to be on as many of these calls as you can, to listen to the stories of other folks who are using Laminine, and keep, I keep a notepad next to my computer, next to the phone. And every time I'm talking to somebody, whether it's one of my clients or it's on one of these calls or on a corporate call, I take notes when people are sharing their stories, because I never know when somebody I'm talking to is going to present with one of those same conditions that they're working on, and I can say, hey, you know what, so-and-so got on the products, and the first 4 weeks she didn't feel anything. John, I tell your wife's story all the time, and I think that's a really compelling story to share with people right off the bat, whether they're going to feel the difference in their first 3 or 4 days. If they know John's wife's story, and maybe you can share that with us, John, if they know your wife's story, then they already have more realistic expectations. They understand that they may not feel anything right off the bat.
Yeah. No, that's a great point in the story that I've certainly shared. And in a nutshell, for those of you who are on the phone the first time here this morning, and we'll kind of bring this to a close here this morning, but my experience on the product was very immediate. I mean, within a day I felt it. Within 9 days it was life-changing. For my wife, on the other hand, and it was interesting to have these two experiences going on simultaneously in my household. She had some issues with mood, and it was she just started taking the product and was like, nothing's happening, nothing's working. And one of our gentlemen in our team here, his name is Steven, and Steven's mantra is, nothing works for me. And I think sometimes that's what goes on in our household here sometimes. But it was, a month, 2 months in, she was going, I'm not experiencing anything. I'm not feeling anything. What was interesting is that me, from the outside looking in, I could see subtle shifts in her mood and in her emotional state, if you will. And it wasn't until between the 4th and the 5th month that she said, you know what, I can see a shift myself. And that was a real breakthrough moment. And, had it not been for me in the same household having that immediate experience and the ongoing experience of benefit, she may not have had the energy to persist. She may not have continued to use the product for 4 to 5 months to get to that breakthrough. And so there's more to the story, but that in a nutshell is what happened. And it's just been a really great example of two very different experiences, but yet both enormously powerful. And so with that, Dr. Gianmichael, you've been really awesome today and helped you just bring a wonderful light to so much very important information. I'm sure that there are a lot of people on the call here that this has had a great impact on their understanding and hopefully their ability to sustain their behavior here and work and be good stewards of this human body that we have. Would you like to leave anybody with any particular thoughts this morning as we release people off into their Thursday?
I appreciate you having me on the call, John. And if there were one thing that I could recommend to everybody, it's just to give your body a chance and to really think about this. What if what we're sharing with you today really can make that big of a difference? What if in the next 30 days you can find yourself in a healthier and more balanced state of life? Take the time and take the initiative, because if we don't take ownership of this incredible body that we've been entrusted with, and if we don't take the initiative to give the body what it needs, I promise you that the traditional medical community is not going to be able to help you. We're at a stage in our evolution as humankind where putting Band-Aids on symptoms and masking the problem isn't satisfactory enough for us. And I think there's no coincidence that you're listening to this call today. So, 6 months from now, we could be looking back at the progress that you made. We could be looking back at the the improvements in your health and the improvements in your life in general, or you could still be, doing nothing and find yourself 6 months older, 6 months in greater pain, 6 months more broken down. Only you can make that decision. So I encourage you guys to think about that and make the right decision and give this 60 to 90 days to look at what's going on in your body. And like John said, to really pay careful attention and to have those around you pay attention as well, because they may notice subtle differences before you even get around to noticing them. So thanks for having me on the call, John. And if there's ever anything any questions I can answer for folks, feel free to let me know.
That would be that's a great invitation, and I'm gonna just immediately jump on that and take you up on it, because what we'd love to do is to do a call where we can actually have interactive questions, because that always is interesting to see where that goes, and so if we can, depending on in the next couple of weeks, we can invite you back to do a little Q&A session. We'll do exactly that. So thank you for the offer, and I hope you'll take us up on it.
Absolutely.
All right.